Fly ball deep to left field, and that one's going to land on the roof at Union Station. My goodness. 3-run blast for Bobby Witt. The Royals go up 4-2 in the bottom of the 8th. How's that sound? Live from Washington Square Park. Future home of the Kansas City Royals. Maybe. I don't know. I just read the news reports here. Mayor Quinton Lucas is on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Mr. Mayor, good morning. Sounds like it's been busy on that front, and curious to know where the conversations are right now with the Royals.
Well, I've been saying for a lot of months, and probably after a while people don't believe me or just think I'm bluffing, but that we've continued robust conversations with the Kansas City Royals, not just about where to put a stadium, but how to finance it, the work to be done, and how people get in and out. And, I don't confirm or deny any individual sites other than to say that we're exploring, I think, a set of good ones. I think we are seeing situations where you can find nearby parking in certain districts where land ownership and land assemblage may not be as much of a challenge. And I look forward to us continuing to do that important work wherever the stadium's going to be. I have said time and again, the Kansas City Royals will be playing in downtown Kansas City in 10 years. I think that is very true. And I think that you're going to see a project that makes good financial sense, first and foremost, keeps the team in Kansas City, moves them downtown, helps stimulate the area around it. And I'm proud. I think if you look at what's going on right now, I read about money issues in Wyandotte County. We read about Jackson County all the time. The state legislatures have challenge. Kansas City, Missouri government is strong. It's robust. We're on good financial footing, and we're getting stuff done. And this will just be one bit of it. So
if you're on good financial footing, what are the options and tools in your toolbox to put together a package that the Royals like that does not involve a vote?
So, and by the way, I read the column yesterday. I don't love how all of the headlines come out. Lucas isn't trying to avoid a vote. I just don't think you need one because you're not looking to levy a new sales tax. Mm-hmm. I think the problem, or a renewed sales tax, the problem in Clay County, the problem in Jackson County was that you were looking at county-wide issues. Up in Clay, I think it was going to be a full 1 cent type of sales tax sort of thing. That gives people great discomfort. I get it and I understand it. I think what many liked about Star Bonds and why you didn't see the same controversial push in Kansas or push back is because if you're looking at redirections, i.e. incentives that come from the stadium itself, you're buying, a cup of beer, for example, you'll pay a little bit more in tax to help support the stadium project long term. I think except for the really unrepentant drunks, most people are fine with that. And I think that what we will be seeing ultimately is a project that looks like funding streams that make sense. Use taxes, the types of taxes that are generated off of the stadium and surrounding development opportunities. That's what Kansas City's talked about. That's what Kansas City figures out. And I think that's why we can not just match, but probably exceed whatever the state of Kansas can put on board. Because first, we are downtown, right? Downtown Kansas City for the region is in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. What's more, you have great tools in Kansas City, Missouri, and I think we can get it done pretty efficiently. You don't have to go back to the legislature. You don't have to do a lot of work. You have one city council vote, I think, that can help figure this out. I look forward to getting us there in the weeks ahead.
So you think that there is enough money for the Royals to, through use taxes and incentives, to make this an interesting venture for them? Like there's enough revenue to generate off of a use tax to make this work?
I'm certain there's enough revenue to make this work. Let's make a few things clear. First of all, the Star Bonds are made of pixie dust, right? This idea that the state of Kansas can, without the backing of the state of Kansas's financial coffers, offer in grand total, I think, something like $2.6 billion on stadiums, right? If you look at full sales tax generations in Kansas, this is like exceeding what they might even produce in a year. But if they can do that much, which is not true, then I think if you get that out of the window, there's actually not a more robust set of opportunities than what Kansas City, Missouri can generate. I think you also have the benefit of being with a jurisdiction that can build stadiums, that has transportation infrastructure, that actually can do the work. It has a strong police department that can help secure it, public works that does all the other work. And so, I strongly believe that there is a good opportunity there. I am sure the Royals will argue for their own best interest. They probably want to put as little in as possible. possible. I think, we'll have to figure that out. I imagine the state of Missouri plays a role, but not the excessive role that I think some people thought.
So,
I think previously some were saying, hey, well, the state of Missouri just put $500 million in. I think the answer to that is no. I think there are other tools that aren't as radical and extreme that could be part of this package.
So is this like the city, and I don't know who would do this, is the council thing or otherwise, drawing let's call it a ballpark district where there's a sales tax that you would add in and around the ballpark? Is that what this looks like?
That would be part of it. I think you would also look at already existing sales tax redirections in that district. So, most of the city sales taxes that would come from it would go straight into the project itself, recouping costs. That would be the sort of example. You would look to probably streamline some of your other infrastructure work, water, sewer, roads, to align with that project construction schedule. This is the sort of thing that we are doing right now in the West Bottoms, in Parade Park, housing development on the east side that we did, for example, with the CPKC Stadium. That's the current stadium on the riverfront. I mean, there are a lot of ways to make this sort of tool work. It makes good sense. And I know many people are saying, wait, you could have done this all along? I think in some ways the answer is yes. Kansas City is able to, I think, stand up in that sort of situation. We'll have more work to do, I think, on final numbers and all of that. And, if you won't give away the farm, we want to, hang on to whatever tax benefits and proceeds we can. But I think this is a very strong path for a future for the Kansas City Royals in downtown Kansas City.
So is it fair to say right now your conversations have been more direct, more robust, more specific with the Royals than the Chiefs?
Yes, I think that's very fair to say.
Okay.
I'm very eager about the Chiefs staying in town. I think that there's a reality, right? Currently, the Chiefs play at Arrowhead Stadium, and to the extent they've had extensive Missouri discussions, usually that's staying at Arrowhead Stadium. The landlord is Jackson County, and, nobody elected me Jackson County executive, so I have great respect to the executive and the legislature as they try to figure out that step. But Kansas City will play every role it can in keeping the Chiefs in town. It's just we don't control all the levers in connection with doing so, where I think we can with the Royals.
Okay, Mayor Lucas is here on KCMO Talk Radio. You mentioned the state not playing as big of a role as maybe some people expect them to play. Governor Parson, as you may have read or heard, said on this show, the Royals basically got to figure out what they're doing before the state can get it all involved. What role, if your idea comes to fruition here, what role ideally would you want to see the state play with the Royals?
Very simple things. I think it is important for Missouri to try its level best to hang on to its professional sports teams. That's right here in Kansas City, but also the St. Louis Cardinals, St. Louis Blues, our soccer teams and beyond. And so, I think that looking at a tool, not one that's dramatic, but one that really looks at kind of entertainment convention revenues to help support the retention of our sports teams each year is important already. Kansas City has availability of up to $3 million a year from a convention and tourism fund. We usually plow that back into the stadiums themselves. If we see a small expansion in that annual amount, then you can start to see how you can run the math and the numbers to help support financing of a little chunk of the stadium. And so, that's the ask that we're looking for. I don't think that you need to go to Jeff City and stop the presses and have the legislature debate for weeks and weeks and months about should we spend, $2 billion on a stadium. I think instead what you do is say, hey, what types of tools do we have that keep these very true economic generators in Missouri? People take trips to Kansas City to see the Chiefs play, to see the Royals play. The St. Louis Cardinals are probably the hottest ticket and the hottest thing to do in the city of St. Louis. I say that with respect to the city. I like it, but, that's a really neat thing people do. We need to make sure those teams remain in Missouri. That will be a huge part of our lobbying agenda, our legislative agenda in Jefferson City. Don't worry, I won't do any woke stuff for all your listeners. I think we just want to keep business in Missouri. I'm excited by the conversation, not just that Mike Parson has had, but Mike Kehoe and Crystal Quaid have had, and making sure that we keep those teams here.
Mayor Lucas is on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. All right, we will keep an eye on that. I know there's going to be more to come in the weeks and months ahead. Just real quick, do you have a deadline on these conversations and when you want an answer from these teams on what their plans will be?
I do. I mean, I align very closely with the Chiefs' thinking, and I have talked to the Chiefs recently, but I align with their thinking that this needs to be resolved by January.
Okay.
The people of this city, state, and region need to move on, and so I would hope that actually by the mid-fall time frame, November, we're able to sign some documents, get some at least ordinance work locally done, and hopefully by the holiday season, you're saying, wow, they figured it all out. We didn't think they could do it.
And you're confident that this thing's never going to a vote again? I mean, there's not going to be a voter input. There's a way to do this without voter input. As I understand it, neither team wants to go to a vote again, and you think that can be done without a vote?
I think certainly the Royals discussion in what you are looking to do, the way the financing streams work, I don't think you need to go to a public vote. That doesn't mean there's not great public engagement and all of that. But I think the tools you're looking at are tools that exist today rather than saying, hey, everybody, we're going to raise your taxes or continue on to try to make sure we address this.
Mm-hmm. All right. Mayor Lucas is here. Hey, I got to ask you about this report, too, in the Kansas City Star. Kansas City spent over $2.3 million in legal fees to fight the issue of state control for the police department. Listen, I know you're a guy who's talked about being a good steward of the taxpayer dollars. In hindsight, is that a good expenditure of the taxpayer money?
I believe it is. First of all, this was a conversation we had at City Council years ago when we started actually when we were responding to litigation. Remember, the way this all really started was the Board of Police Commissioners, another taxpayer-funded entity, filed suit against the city. They hired outside counsel. That outside counsel is still employed. However, nobody really knows what the Board of Police Commissioners does. So nobody writes a big piece about them. I mean, this is what's regrettable about a battle between the state and the city over control. I think when you look even at the Amendment 4 issue, the city of Kansas City reached out to the Secretary of State, the Missouri State Auditor, years ago, before the case went to the Missouri Supreme Court, and said this needs to be fixed. They did not. The Supreme Court agreed with the Kansas City position. The legal strategy was, frankly, rock solid. You can have qualms with the political strategy, and I've heard you talk about it on this show, your differences of opinion. But, yeah, we hired the best appellate lawyer in the state of Missouri. We hired some of the best lawyers in the country to try to make sure that we were standing up for the rights not just of Kansas Cityans, but of Missourians. And I think Missourians have a right to know the truth when they go to the ballot box. They have a right to actually hear about the interests of the people of Kansas City, 508,000 of them. And the thing that's most important is this isn't just a one-time issue. This was a constitutional amendment, so it speaks to $40, $50, $60 million a year in perpetuity. And so if you actually look at that number, it's a very small amount. But I think, I believe that you looked at a successful legal strategy. I know there are some who are saying, well, these were suits against the police. No, not really. This is actually just the state of Missouri and the city of Kansas City trying to figure things out. What I would say to you, Pete, is we could save lots of money, lots of hassle, lots of issues, not have two HR staffs, not have many of the issues we have, if the state would give us back local control of the police tomorrow. You would save even more money than that, and I think that's important. The other thing is someone who looks at legal expenses, right? This is the sort of thing that over the course of years came from a city budgeted legal expense fund. My bigger concern, and you've read about this perhaps in the news, but people don't seem to care as much, a $4.5 million legal settlement relating to a 911 error, both at KCPD and FD. We have a number of other KCPD lawsuits that have led to the expenditure of more than $10 million in recent years on issues where I think we have accountability concerns. So these are ongoing concerns and issues. I do think it's responsible for us to try to have accountability, to have some handle on how we can make this city safer, how we can be more responsible. And that's why I think City Council made the right choice years ago to make sure we're standing up for our position.
Mayor Lucas is here on KCMO Talk Radio. Okay, so if you had control, you'd basically get rid of the HR department for the police and put it under the city umbrella? Is that part of what I just heard?
Of course.
In a perfect world?
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah, HR, IT, look, all this stuff. Pete, I believe that your radio conglomerate, for better or worse, is owned by a bigger group than just like 200 independent stations. Part of the reason you do that is by the phrase of economies of scale. Right now, what we're doing and having two communications teams, two HR teams, two buildings and facilities teams, two road and car maintenance teams is the fact that we actually are just doubling expenses for the taxpayers. Those doubled expenses are money not going to the pockets of police officers. This, look, everybody can play their defund or whatever game till the cows come home. This is actually just a common sense administration game. And I think the Missouri voters, by and large, saw it. No, we didn't get over 50%. We got pretty darn close, which I think speaks to the strength of the strategy. And actually, in this whole debate, the one who made the most brilliant political stroke, if you like state control, was Governor Mike Parson, who made that an August ballot issue, ignoring the position of the Missouri Supreme Court rather than in November. If we're sitting in November, then you will have seen this overturned. You would have seen, frankly, everybody saying, wow, Kansas City not only won on the law, but also won on the politics. And that's why I think people keep fighting the issue.
Mayor Lucas, fired up on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We'll have to pick it up next week, and we will do that Thursday, 7:30. We appreciate the time.
Hey, go Royals. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.
All right.